Well, thank you for that, Gerald Stint and your flatulent puffins. A recording of that performance is available on wax cylinder at all good slaughterhouses. And a bit of local news now, as the station mascot, Biggles the Wonder Pony, is missing and was last seen in the naughty 18th century French novellas section of Wanton Books on the Earls Court Road. If found, please return to the Flange Goblet Studios, where I'm sure you'll be rewarded with an ashtray signed by Lenny Beige and £13 worth of used ham. And now on Radio Flange Goblet, it's the After Movie Diner, which this week comes from Lip Hippoworth's Chip and Dip Emporium in Biggleswade on the Tits. A deliciously vague eatery where even the specials remain a mystery. Your server is aloof, and the ingredients of the gazpacho soup are a closely guarded and worrying secret, secured in a vault by two gorillas named Nigel, who perpetually fight over eggs and who has the largest spatula.
You're listening to the After Movie Diner with your host, John Cross.
That's right, I am John Cross, and only my lips have been changed to protect the innocent. Welcome, ladies, men who stare at goats, men whose nostrils flare at stoats, men who glare near oats, men who wear old coats, men who tear cold throats, men who sometimes stand on one leg humming an old spiritual before punching a cardboard cutout of Ian Botham, and people who don't care to be defined by their gender, their name, their hairstyle, their taste in late 80s synth-pop, their penchant for licking the armrests in movie theatres, and their vast collections of black and white cheese-rolling documentaries. Welcome one, and welcome all. Before we get to discussing this week's film, which we really drone on and on about at quite some length and width, a quick reminder that you can support the After Movie Diner in many ways. But one of them is going over to patreon.com/aftermoviediner, that's patreon.com/aftermoviediner, and becoming a patron of the show. You can also make a one-time donation by clicking the Buy Us a Coffee button on aftermoviediner.com. You can click the amazon.com link on our website before you do your shopping, and then bookmark that as your Amazon link on your browser so that every time you make a purchase, and at no extra cost to yourself, Amazon will slip us a few lightly stroked quarters. Also, if you like music, you can go to miscplumbingfixtures.bandcamp.com, that's MISC plumbingfixtures.bandcamp.com, and get yourself an album or 11. Every single cent goes to keeping the website and this podcast afloat on an uncertain sea, on a turbulent internet, part of a fractious world that may or may not all be down to the proliferation of people who have lost all perspective, get outraged over the slightest mouse fart, and have endless hours in their day to be angry at Susan Sarandon. If you have no money, simply rate and review the show on iTunes or wherever podcasts are found. Now, without further running of my silly replacement mouth, to a diner somewhere in the heart of New York City. Stop Jeff Cutlery from emptying the drawer over there, making a lot of noise. I don't know where the best to put this. It's water like everywhere.
We'll put it on an actual napkin. See, I'm always thinking.
I know. I'm going to point it towards you because last time we recorded, you came out as if you were like miles away. I don't know what it is about. Like,
it's because you deliberately fuck with the.
No, it's not.
The settings.
It's
so
not.
Your voice is always louder. My voice is always. Really
no,
quiet.
It's not. It's because my voice is of a. What's the word? Like a
richer timbre?
A timbre that is just more recordable.
People have often said that about my voice.
Meaning I'm louder and more obnoxious.
And deeper, richer.
So,
I sound like that.
Hello and welcome to the After Movie Diner. And this week, we've been to an AMC theatre, and we got there early, which means we had to endure Newbie or Newbie or whatever the fuck that is.
Newbie doesn't.
Hosted by Maria
Maluminos.
Maria
Melons. Mary Melons.
No, it's not. Maria Menutos.
Mary Melon Balls.
Is it Maria Menutos? Is that
something
who it is?
like that? Yeah.
Okay. So.
Maria Melonballs.
Maria Melonballs, who has a podcast apparently, as well as hosting AMC's Newbie.
That's all she did. She didn't even do. She hosted it, but she hosted it by saying, "I have this podcast." Like, that was how she hosted it.
Yeah, you need to be way louder. Even I can't hear you, and I'm sat opposite you.
I was saying
Yeah.
there wasn't really any hosting going on.
No.
She just announced that she had a podcast.
Right.
And that was it.
Yeah, and then there was
How
some
do you
like.
get that gig?
Then
How
there
do you
was
get a gig where you get to stand at an ABC
Yeah.
theatre split screen
Yeah.
and just announce to people that you have a podcast?
well, because you have
Also,
to
I
be
don't know
called.
who you are.
You have to be called Maria
Hi, Maria.
Menutas.
I don't know. It could be, hello, I'm Jeff. Please listen to my podcast.
I'm Jeff Menutas.
It's podcast with Jeff. I mean, seriously, who is she?
She's Maria Menutas.
Yeah.
From Mellenballs. Maggie
Maggie
Mellenballs.
Mellenballs.
But yeah, so we had to endure that. And also, it's a weird disconnect because for the first 15 minutes of that, it seemed to be interactive phone video games. Yet the other half of it seemed to be telling you to turn your phone off. And I'm like,
You
well,
turn your phone on to start with.
you can't have it both ways, Menutas.
You have
You've
to
got
pay
to pick.
attention to the adverts.
Listen, Menutas, you've got to pick the difference.
Not
no, not yet.
quite
Sorry.
yet. Nearly. Thank you.
Nearly, but not quite yet.
I don't. I mean, I'm thinking.
But I really did want to stand
You know,
up and
just
go, listen, Menutas.
listen, Menutas.
You can't have it both ways,
Leave
love.
me out of it. Whatever this
You
is,
can't have it both ways.
leave me out of it.
Now, if you can get Jeff Menutas in here, I'll tell him to his face as well. Do they have? They got about baked potatoes.
They do. It's down. It's in the side orders.
Since
You get, but they don't have it with bacon. They just got it with cheddar cheese.
Since last week, when I had a baked potato, which was absolutely divine, that's all I want. So, Mr. Voodoo Fuzz, I'm no longer going to be ordering my ham, egg, and chips. I'm
And
going
now
to be
you're
ordering baked
potato.
potatoes.
You thrilling culinary adventurer.
Where are they, dude? Where do they find?
Under side orders, but it only has with melted cheddar cheese. But you can get potato skins with cheddar cheese and bacon bits.
I don't want
Right above it, it's baked potato with melted cheddar cheese. Quite tempted to get Idaho steak fries with chili and melted cheese.
I can't just get potato skins.
No, I
But
take
you have to
your
have something with potato skins. Otherwise, I'm just some sort of, garbage monster.
point. Well,
Just some kind of
the shoe fits.
filth.
If the garbage shoe fits,
If the shitty shoe fits.
I guess I might just go. A bowl of chili. I really like because then I'm just turning into you. And there's no wait. There was other really tasty sandwiches.
Ooh, I could get chicken fingers.
Yeah, that could work. What's the cheese and roast beef on a roll?
Expensive though.
Grilled Swiss cheese and turkey on rye. Tomato, bacon, and fried onion.
Are you just reading off things?
Yeah, well, I'm kind of interested.
So anyway, the reason why I went off on the whole Maria Menutas thing
Right, yes.
is because she
Oh,
said
yeah,
that on her
yeah,
podcast,
yeah.
as well as talking about movies, which clearly she doesn't
She does not
do,
There was no talking about movies with Maria Ballounas.
she said Balloonas.
That's Ballounas.
Bellina Balloonas.
Mary's Ballounas.
Bellina Balloonas was not talking about movies.
Belinda's Ballounas.
You were saying that she had, what was it, tips?
She had, you were supposed to tune into her podcast because she had tips for living.
Tips for living.
So, what
qualifies
what does
Maria
a 9
Menutas
foot
to
tall,
turn-
you know what I mean, 2-dimensional, made up person
She's not bad.
who hosts adverts
Right.
before a movie?
Right.
Don't turn into me. My life is empty. I literally make nothing.
Yeah,
And then it was I talk to celebrities like Tony Robbins, who's another.
Did she actually say that?
Yeah, it was like a picture of Tony Robbins,
There was a picture of Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
I missed all of this.
Yeah.
I was too busy
and then it was
dribbling.
Zoe Saldana. Tony Robbins again because he's another idiot who's going to pretend that all you
Right.
need to do to be successful
Right.
is to be a vicious asshole with no soul and a massive chin.
Right.
Which is true in America.
Right.
And Zoe Saldana. So I don't know how I'm assuming Zoe didn't know what she was getting herself in for. That's my guess. But by the time Zoe got it, he goes, so what are your tips for living, Zoe?
Zoe Saldana on Maria Menutas' podcast strikes me as one of those guests.
How's that?
Hang on a second. Strikes me as one of those guests where you go, she's attached to AMC, she's on Nuvi, da 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 da.
Yeah.
Zoe goes, it sounds legit. does the interview, and then goes to her agent and goes, tell all of Hollywood, never ever go there again. So then the only person she can rope in is Robbins, because he just wants to get his obscenely large face on anything.
If you're sick of the cinema, you have to watch Belinda Balloon Arse, right? Talk about stuff. Because you're early and you might as well watch something.
Right.
And even though we're not listening, like we're aware of her presence.
Oh, I'm definitely not listening.
There's literally no choice.
Right.
But Belinda Balloon Arse's podcast, like, you have to go somewhere and you have to download it.
Right.
And on Belinda Balloon Arse's podcast, she is talking to Tony Robbins about tips for living.
Tips for living.
Now, I bet that
gets millions of downloads.
Millions of downloads versus our podcast,
which gets barely
none,
70.
like 12.
Yeah.
So what's wrong?
Well, we don't have tips for living, mate. So what we need to do is start off each podcast with tips for living. Who doesn't want our tips for better living?
Well, you mean so that they can do the opposite?
The guy who sat here literally going, shall I get potato skins covered in
what kind
grease?
of potato you want.
Shall I get a side of chicken covered in grease to go with my potato skins covered in grease, having just got grease on my pants from popcorn, which I also covered in grease?
Can you please explain to the English people what you mean?
Trousers.
Thank you. Only because otherwise they're going to weird, like, why was he... How did he get grease on his undies?
On his undies?
In the cinema?
In the cinema.
Was that one of Belinda's tips for living? Take off your trousers while watching the cinema.
Belinda Maluna should have had that tip for living.
I bet she runs out of tips for living after like number 7.
So
we've got to think about what we're going to have. They're going to get angry. I can't figure out if I want the Wisconsin, which is grilled Swiss and turkey on rye with tomato, bacon, fried onion, which does sound really good.
Got 40 ways to serve an omelette.
Or chili. I don't want to just like keep getting. See, I don't think they should describe something as a fresh, fishy sandwich because it's like it's not quite fish; it's fishy. It's a fishy sandwich. I don't know. What do I get? A burger?
See, all day I've been thinking about having a baked potato.
Now you're changing your mind.
Well, because I don't have it the way I want it.
I'm sure they'll put, if they've got bacon bits on the potato skins, I'm sure they'll put bacon bits on your... Just ask them with bacon. They put bacon on fucking everything. This is America.
No.
Just say, can I have bacon on mine? And they'll go, yeah, for an extra
But
$1.
now I want an omelette.
What? Really? Okay, you can have an omelette. That's fine. Maybe I'll get an omelette. Where are the omelettes?
There's 40 ways to serve an omelette.
Is this the 40 ways to serve an omelette? Oh, yeah.
This is the bit I can just cut out.
Yeah, that's probably for the best. It's hardly thrilling. This is where Maria Balloon Arse has got us going. We are useless.
No, I'm ready.
Give us a minute.
I'm ready.
Oh, you know what you want?
Yeah.
What are you going to have?
I'm having the number 30.
The turkey, avocado, and Swiss?
Yeah.
I was thinking about that.
With steak fries. Done. Number 30. So yeah, I think each week we need to start off with the Jim and Jon, or Jim and Crossy, whatever you want to call me.
I'm going to get the Wisconsin.
The Wisconsin?
The Wisconsin.
All right, great, love it.
I just like ordering things with cool names.
Yeah, all right, whereas
Give me a Wisconsin.
I'm having a number 30 with steak.
With steak? Do you think
fries?
Yeah, we might want to specify the fries.
Yeah.
Because they will just put a steak on top of it.
Yeah,
because that's disgusting. This is America. They will not ask questions.
No.
They'll just give you
so I think, what do you think? 2 each every week?
2?
Or just a tip each?
With one.
So a tip from you and a tip from me. We are ready.
Yes. Could I get the Wisconsin? Wisconsin? Yeah. With the Wisconsin sandwich. No.
I'm going to have the turkey, Swiss, and avocado omelette, the number 30.
Turkey, Swiss, and avocado.
The number 30, yeah. And I'll have that with steak fries, please.
Steak fries.
Steak fries.
Okay. Could I get a cup of English breakfast tea with milk? Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, my friend.
I can't think of a single...
So
are we being serious or are we being amusing?
No, it'll be whatever you want to be. Jim, I have never inhibited you from being anything other than who you are.
Know what? If people did review this podcast, if they cared enough to,
yeah.
Right? lazy, freeloading bastards. But if they did, like one word they might use is like uninhibited.
Yeah.
Dribble. You get those like quotes on the back of movies. A thriller.
Right.
Whoa, let's take this one. A thriller in the style of whatever.
Right. Or if you were Paul Ross, it would be the best, the best.
Easily the best thriller of the 90s.
Yeah,
It's 2007.
It would be easily the best thriller starring, whatever.
Keith Chegwin does it again.
Yeah, whatever.
Which again would be like, do I want it? I know he's doing it again, but I'm not sure I even wanted it in the first place.
I don't even want it.
Let alone again.
I didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
It was put in front of me.
My tip is don't watch Keith Chegwin do it again.
Or ever. But
certainly not
is
again.
Keith Chegwin still alive?
I don't know, probably.
So your tip is don't Keith Chegwin.
No. I can do that.
I think. Hang on a second. I think of all the people on the planet.
Oh wait. Thank you very much. Thank you. So
I think Cheggers is probably the least of our worries.
So
in a list of people, Cheggers is way down the list.
I had.
Yeah.
What would you?
Just the tip with Jim Wallace.
What would you say? What would you say? Right.
Yeah.
This is what happened to me this morning.
Okay.
What would you say? Like the top 3 worst things that can happen to you on a subway ride?
Okay. On a subway ride.
On a subway ride.
Coughed at by a homeless person, and you feel phlegm.
Okay, you know what? You're right.
Face.
That is the way. Okay, well, I would go with my top 3 would be probably at the top would be just like being stuck in a tunnel for 20 minutes,
Right.
or something like that. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
just that thing where you're just not moving and you've got no idea
Right.
how long it's going to be. Number 2 would probably be controversial,
Right.
but I would say, have you ever done a thing where you realise?
Oh, those people with the music when they come on and they try and dance on the pole.
No,
those people need to be fucking kicked in
that
the
is
face.
bad. Have you ever?
Every
This is
single
quite rare.
subway car I get into,
this is
they
quite
get
rare.
on and then they're all like, "Hey, everybody, be happy!" And I'm just like, "Can you get out?
Yeah,
I'll give you $20 if you don't do what you're about to do,
I don't like.
and
I don't
never
like
do it
demand that
again."
you're happy. I don't like that.
They do. They come on and demand.
Yeah.
Fuck off! It's fucking. I'm either going to work or coming home from work. Either way, I don't want to be bothered by
Either way, this is not
noise.
the best bit. I'm either on the way. I'm on the way to the worst bit, or on my way to the best bit.
Yeah.
This is nothing. This is just noise, mate. So, have you ever? And this is very specific, and it may not have happened to you, but if you have, it is literally the worst. Have you ever sat down, and it could be a tube or like
You
train
sat down into
or
vomit
whatever,
or an unknown substance. Oh.
and you realise that sitting opposite you is somebody you know,
Yeah.
but that you'd never talk to and never want to, like from work or something
Right.
like that. You know what I mean? Like the social awkwardness of realising you've sat down.
Yeah.
And sometimes it could be like you realise they're standing next to you or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's somebody from work,
Right.
and you hate them, or they hate you, or
Right.
whatever, right? That's
Yeah.
that's pretty bad.
Yeah, I normally get in an elevator with those people, and then there's like this awkward silence.
But I mean like on a train, or
Yeah.
a subway, like a
Right.
like.
And then you got stuck in a tunnel for 20 minutes. Did they look up? Did they notice you? Did they know?
We haven't even got to number 3 yet.
Okay.
Number 3 is
Then you sat in sick in front of someone you didn't like.
when a nutter gets on to the train and starts screaming about Jesus.
The Jesus screamers.
So this morning,
Was it a well-to-do crazy person?
no, they were serious.
Or was it?
No,
was it like
they
a
weren't insane. They were
homeless crazy?
preaching. They were properly preaching.
So it was a serious crazy
Serious
person,
crazy person.
as
Yeah.
opposed to a
Yeah, it was
crazily
like,
serious
yeah,
person.
like properly acted. They meant what they were saying.
This was someone who got on the train and was like, my purpose
So-
in life
so
is
this
to
morning-
upset all of these people.
All 3.
All 3.
I was in a subway.
In a tunnel,
For
not
20
going
minutes,
anywhere for 20
sat,
minutes.
sitting opposite somebody I knew
Crazy
from work who
preacher.
I really did not want to talk to.
Right.
And my only way out of this was to pretend to be asleep.
Right.
Which is not terribly convincing.
Right.
When 2 feet away, somebody's screaming about how Jesus is going to send us all to hell.
Right.
At the time, when he was telling me that I was damned,
Right.
I felt like he might be right.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt like I was
So wait
actually
1 second.
in
Let's
hell.
just establish this. You faked sleeping
Yep.
during a mad
20
preacher
minutes while the man
For 20 minutes.
For 20 minutes while the guy
to
was mad
avoid
preaching.
eye contact
Yeah.
and possible pleasantries
Yeah.
to be exchanged with someone. So,
Now you say it, it does
that's-
sound pretty bad.
that's weird.
Yeah.
No, because I just would have
Well,
been
I
like,
don't
would have
know-
been
I
like,
don't
hey
know her.
mate, and then gone back to my phone.
Clearly, in my
Do you not have a phone or a book or something you're looking at on the subway?
well, I don't have a phone because I don't have any internet on the subway. I'm underground.
My internet still works underground.
Really?
Yeah.
Mine doesn't.
Except when I'm like deep in a tunnel.
I was deep in a tunnel.
Wait, but I can still play like a
How was
a
it? The
game
cricket.
or
The cricket was on. I could have been following. I wanted to be following. I was missing the cricket. For
I
this.
like playing a little computer game. You could have been playing Tetris or something.
I could have done that. I don't have a game on my phone, but I'm sure it would have been there somewhere. It's probably like
You live. I
in
don't
some
even.
folder.
I don't even understand your existence. Everyone has solitaire on their phone, just for those moments where you're like, I just want to play solitaire. I have a little panda bubble game where a panda. You have to pop bubbles to save a panda's children because they've been imprisoned in bubbles by a mad baboon. That's the game I
don't
play.
even know you. Like, what the hell is that?
It's one of those games.
Although I wish I'd had that this morning.
Right, that's what I mean. That's exactly what that game is.
Yeah.
That game is I drown out the rest of the world for the 30 minutes that I'm
Can
on
I
there.
just clarify? It's not that I don't like this person or this person
You just
doesn't
didn't
like
want to
me.
get
I
into
just
it, right?
didn't want to get into it.
Wait, but that's easy if they're sat opposite you. It's harder if they're sat next to you. If they're sat opposite you, you just go, trains, and then go back to whatever it was you
I
were
should have
doing.
done that. I feel like she knew I knew.
You pretended to be asleep for 20 minutes.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, that's weird. That's weird.
Well, I do normally
I
go
would
on
say
and sleep.
I would say that my tip for a better living
Yeah,
right
you're
now
right.
is
Don't
do what
fake
Jim
sleep
does.
when
Don't
that
fake
happens.
sleep. Never fake sleep. Never fake sleep. In fact, is there ever an occasion where fake sleeping is really?
Well, I thought this was the occasion.
No, this wasn't the occasion.
But normally, but in my defense,
this
normally,
occasion was pure
normally
tunnels,
in my defense,
and then
I
you
get
go
on
back
and
to-
I try and sleep.
No, but in your defense, no, there is no defense.
But after a few
There's
minutes,
no defending
the next
you.
stop, the
You're
guy
a-
got on and he started screaming,
No,
and I
there's-
just decided to.
There's no
carry on
defending you.
pretending sleeping.
You're a madman who clearly lives in the past because everybody else who travels on a train for a living has realized two fundamental things.
Okay.
One,
Okay.
headphones, a clear winner, right?
Yeah.
Preferably attached to either a Pandora, Spotify, or iTunes subscription that allows you to listen to music, right? And some form of utterly innocuous game that one can play to drown out the hideousness of existence.
No, I'm with you on this.
This, and by the way, this isn't some crazy modern invention. This has been around
I know.
for some while.
This is not me being like, oh, who needs games? I'm just lazy and
Right.
Luddite.
No, right, exactly. You're the kind of person.
Lovely, thank you
Oh
very
my
much.
goodness,
Look at
the
that. Brilliant.
Wisconsin looks Wisconsin-y. It's fantastic. Thank
Thank you
sir.
very much. Smashing.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Avocado, turkey. Thank you so much. Who doesn't love this, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you're doing it all wrong. I think that's my tip. My
No,
tip
that's
is
fine.
do
No,
not.
I think that's fair. I decided, when you double down on a bad decision, that's all I do. I just double
You
down on a bad
literally
decision.
Larry David the situation.
Yeah. And the problem is now is that the person who I work with clearly.
Right. Thinks you're a narcoleptic or something.
Well, but we clearly had a tacit understanding because I always stand.
Right.
Like we both figured out that where the train
You're
pulls in
revealing
at
so
our
much
stop,
about yourself. I love it.
when the train pulls up at our stop, right? If you're in the last carriage along, then you get to get out and you're up the stairs quickest, right? I'm always in that carriage.
Right.
I wasn't in this carriage this time because I was running to catch the train.
Uh-huh.
And the second carriage,
Right.
which leads me to believe
Uh-huh.
that she knows
Uh-huh.
that could be in their first carriage. So she's adjusted her schedule.
No, she hasn't. Do you know what she's done?
What's she done?
She's literally never thought about you ever. She's never gone, oh, there's that bald goof for work. She's literally, she hasn't gone, wait a minute, I need to completely redesign my morning schedule to avoid this madman. She's just
But
never...
why not be in the final carriage? I always stand in the final carriage, always.
Okay, because, all right, from what I've learned, and I've not traveled on trains, subway trains with you a lot,
This is a good sandwich.
but the few times I have traveled on subways with you, you are anal in the extreme as about where to get on, where to stand, blah, 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 blah. And you need to, which, by the way, is a totally admirable trait. I myself have figured out on my train where I get on, where I get off. And I've even figured out that if I have to get on at a different carriage, where that will deposit me at 14th Street and how I then get back to my regular. I've figured all that out. I get it totally.
I feel like we're in a minority there when it comes to that kind of behavior. I feel like other people who like just take life easy, man, and just do their own thing and swing by their own chain.
Because we're living in the 60s?
I don't know. I think those people probably look at people like us and think that we're taking things way too seriously.
How could anybody look at us and think we take things seriously?
And I'm saying...
I don't mean that as a compliment. It's just like...
I'm saying that this woman this morning that you assumed had spent her entire life figuring out ways to avoid you probably just didn't even give you a second thought. She probably saw you on the train, and probably what went through her brain is like, he looks familiar, and then she went back to probably headphones and a game, or a book, or whatever you're doing on the train. Because the last thing you're doing is striking up conversation, even if there's someone you know. The only time you ever actually talk to anyone on a train that you know is when you both got on together and then you both get off together. Otherwise, it's just this understanding.
I feel like there's people... Okay, before we get on this, at some point we have to talk about the movie that we came in to talk about. But I feel like...
Do we, though?
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like there's people out there who understand where I'm coming from. And not just the mad decision.
Oh, I understand where you're coming from. You're a lunatic.
But I think that the avoidance of that kind of social... Especially if we're stuck in a tunnel.
Right.
So you can't just go with, like, whoa, it's a bit hot, isn't it? Whatever. Like, you've got to seriously stretch out that time. It's a living nightmare.
No, because your assumption is she wants to talk to you.
Well, I'm sure she doesn't. But we can't both go, listen, should we just pack this in?
No, but you can go train day and then go back to your book. You're missing the key component, which you have to have something to go back to.
You're right.
And you didn't.
Normally I got on the train and have a nice snooze. I'm very happy. Anyway, so yeah, all right. A tip for me is get a game on my phone so that should awkward social interaction...
You can't steal my tip.
No, I said your tip.
You
said your tip. I said your tip.
Yeah, what's your tip?
Tell me something embarrassingly hideous that happened to you, and then I can give you a tip about it.
Your tip is
That's what it should be.
How to be a lunatic.
We should share, like, the weirdest thing that happened to us that week. And my tip could be, listen, you idiot, just do this. Because other people's lives are so much easier than your own. The cheese went in. Do you want me to tell you how to end the cheese?
Yes. That's the most embarrassing thing that's happened to me all week, is that I couldn't end my cheese.
Well, I gave you the tip about... Oh, here we go. Just to get off there.
God,
My tip
I wonder
for you,
if Maria Menounos' podcast goes down such a rabbit hole. Sorry.
Oh, God. Come on, Tony, get on with it. Christ. Some of us have got fucking jobs to go to. No. So my tip for you, just so this could be over.
Yeah.
Let's just all have Goldfinger and pack it in.
Right?
Okay, so my tip for you is when he spilled like popcorn butter grease on his trousers, because this is who I go to the cinema with.
Yeah.
A man who spilled
popcorn butter grease. Well, it's not even real butter. It's butter flavored oil, and it's not even real butter. It's like butter flavor.
What do you think
it's
how long do
made
you think it takes from somebody who's not American to come to America, and when they discover hey, do you want to squirt this yellow liquid that we're calling butter onto your popcorn and eat it?
No, they call it butter flavor.
Butter flavor. Do you want to squirt some butter flavored yellow liquid on your popcorn?
Right.
Because there's a point when anybody who isn't American goes, no, I'm not mental. That sounds awful.
Right, but I'm deep in it. I'm deep into the
anyway, my point is
culture.
As we talked about.
But I over buttered it.
He over buttered it. He spilled it on his trousers. So my tip for you is, in order to clean butter off your trousers,
buy new jeans.
Right. You put a little bit of dishwasher soap on the stain.
Right.
Rub it with cold water to get a little, thingamajig going, and then leave it in the bin, and you'll be fine.
Tips for living. I have to say, don't ever complain that the After Movie Diner never did anything for you, because right there, better tips than Menounos ever came up with, guaranteed.
Those are probably like self-actualize your dream mansion or whatever.
Right. They're like, have you made a vision board?
Self-actualize your dream potential.
What you have to do is you have to see the goal, be the goal, and end the goal.
Yeah. Goalize your potential. Because here it's, if you get a grease stain from butter, from butter from your popcorn.
butter flavour.
Like, if she actually did that before AMC movies, you can remember if you drip butter on your trousers, put a bit of dishwasher soap on it, Bob's your uncle.
If you've accidentally poured, well, not accidentally, if you've purposely poured liquid into a thin, cheap paper bag and are surprised that it has leaked out onto your thigh, here is an actual tip from Maria
You
Minuto.
could be listening to the After Movie Diary.
Yeah.
Right, there we go. Tips 11.
Tips from Maria Minuto.
Yeah. So, movie?
There we go. Right. The movie was The Happy Time Murders.
The Happy Time Murders,
Which-
which we both went to see because it got critically panned. But then we read about it and we thought, well, that sounds like my cup of tea.
Yeah, so we went to see it because we're both Muppet fans. I mean, I'm the big Muppet fan. Are you a Muppet fan?
Well, probably not as big as you.
Right. And this was done by Brian-Henson, who kind of took on the Muppet mantle when Jim died.
Right.
But it's done under an alternative company called Henson Alternative, or HA! Exclamation point. And it was sold definitely on the back of, here are the R-rated Muppets. This is, sex, violence, drugs, rock and roll, swearing from Muppets, right? Right. Which anybody of any kind of film knowledge immediately goes, all right, so it's Meet the Feebles.
Right.
Now, Meet the Feebles very quickly, and I'm going to go very quick through this because actually it turns out Meet the Feebles has literally nothing to do with it. But Meet the Feebles is an early Peter Jackson movie. I believe it comes between Bad Taste and Brain Dead, which they also call Dead Alive over here, I think.
Brain Dead or Meet the Feebles?
Brain Dead is called Dead Alive over
Okay,
here.
cool.
Because there's another movie called Brain Dead. It was the movie he made in between the two. It's a very surreal movie that is essentially a puppet film, as if it was sort of a adult look behind the scenes of something that approximates the Muppet Show. It's kind of like the filthy 30 Rock of the Muppets. If 30 Rock to SNL, this is like the adult version to the Muppet Show.
Well, the Muppets actually sort of did something like when they did the ABC show.
Right.
Behind the scenes of the Muppets.
But it wasn't very good.
It was all right. It wasn't too bad.
But it wasn't adult. Like the
No.
thing with the thing with Meet the Feebles is it's every single taboo you can possibly imagine.
Yeah.
Like it's a super, super gross out, disgusting, fluids everywhere, AIDS jokes, cancer jokes, people getting shot, people having sex. Like it's grimy and gross and disgusting. And
when we were 15, we loved it.
well, oh yeah, no, it's awesome. It's the Derek and Clive album, but as a puppet show.
Right.
And it certainly has its place. And if you haven't seen it, I would strongly recommend checking out Meet the Feebles, but just realize that it is grimy, gross, and very adult. This, on the other hand,
Well, this felt more like an 80s movie.
right?
It had that real vibe. Like, of a lot of the trailers we've been seeing look like 80s movies remade with women,
Right.
which is kind of what this was, only with puppets.
Well,
There was that thing in the 80s with Chevy Chase and Steve Martin and people where they would make like film noirs, only a bit kind of knowing,
right.
but also enjoying the tropes too. It wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't just nod, nod, wink, wink. It was all like
So-
we're going to make this and we're going to have fun doing it,
So,
kind of a thing.
the first thing is to be said is that the film is funny. But it's not funny necessarily for the reasons why everyone thought it was going to be funny. Everyone thought it was going to be funny because it was going to be shagging, swearing, gory Muppets.
Right.
And actually, that's the least funny thing about the film.
That's true.
That's the first thing.
Yeah.
The second thing is that its biggest failing is that it doesn't commit to any of the one things that it is fully. It doesn't commit to being like a fun, bonkers, amazingly well soundtracked 80s comedy. It doesn't commit to being a film noir whodunit. It doesn't commit to being an adult, gory, shagging, gross out puppet movie. It doesn't, and it's sort of also weirdly cast, because I kind of feel, although I do like her, that Melissa-McCarthy was kind of one of the problems with the film.
Really?
Yeah. And I can't quite put my finger on why. Anyway, over to Jim for his now, well, he's just put an enormous, dare I say it, kind of gross mouthful of this sandwich, which just looks like...
Maria, fetch the washing up liquid.
Yeah. This sandwich, ladies and gentlemen, there are no ladies listening. This sandwich looks like both heaven and hell spilling out of the toasted guts of a... Yeah, it just looks bizarre. But
Sandwich monster.
Sandwich monster, yeah. I imagine, having just seen the Happy Time Murders, that this is a puppet sandwich, and any minute it's going to be like, get your hands off my bacon, you little scumbag.
I have to get a napkin.
Yeah, he has to get many napkins.
So,
Quickly do the plot, sir.
quickly do the plot,
Your
okay.
painted Jim plot
Here we go.
reading.
Right, so we're living in a world where it's not completely explained. Like, they don't bother with any kind of MacGuffin reason for why puppets are sentient, but they are, and they wander around, but they are very much second-class citizens, and they are, all they do is sing and dance. And it's not really gone into why they were. It seems like what happened was they just entertained people, and then they were kind of forgotten about, or it's not really very clear.
Well,
Right?
no, I think...
What's clear is that they are second-class citizens in this world and not taken seriously.
So the thing that, again, you're missing, as you always do with your recaps,
Sorry, I was sorry, yeah.
and not really spoiling anything, but the lead puppet...
I'm going to get to that. I'm trying to explain
Which,
the world.
no, but this is important to kind of what you were saying. Out of all the puppets, he was the first one, it seems, that kind of branched out into the human world, and there was an incident that kind of set back puppet kind of a bit, in a way.
They only refer to it in terms of specifically police, but I guess that could be true. I guess that could be all puppet. Anyway, regardless, I've already been derailed.
Yeah, it's fine.
By me.
Yeah.
There's a world in which puppets live alongside humans, and they are second-class citizens, and they're treated like shit. Nobody takes them seriously, but they are part of the world. We follow a private investigator, puppet, who's an ex-cop. Oh, what, because of the buzzing? Should I stop or keep going?
No, just keep going.
Okay.
Just be louder.
Right, got it. He's a private investigator, puppet, and he's hired... The first thing we see is him hired by a woman to find the person who's been blackmailing her. She's a very sexy film noir lady. So he goes to the place where he thinks he can find a clue, which is a puppet porno shop, during which a robbery occurs and a bunch of puppets get taken out, one of whom is one of the stars of a big puppet show that was on TV from the past, like 20 years ago. And as the movie goes on, more and more of the cast members are picked off one by one of this show, seemingly for the money that's about to come their way for the syndication. While this is going on, he is paired with his old partner, who's Melissa-McCarthy, a human, and the two of them, who have a troubled history,
Yeah.
because the incident to which Crossy was referring to earlier, where what's the puppet PI's name? I've forgotten his name.
Peterson or something.
No, Phil Phillips.
Phil
Phillips.
Phillips?
Yeah,
Okay,
Phil Phillips. And Phil Phillips. How much ketchup? That's like your fifth squirt.
Yeah, I know, I'm a big ketchup fiend.
So I'm understanding. where his partner, Melissa-McCarthy, was taken hostage by a puppet, and he, it was said, deliberately missed the shot because it was said that puppets can't shoot other puppets. So he was thrown at the police, and a law was passed that said that puppets couldn't be policemen because they can't shoot other puppets. And as a result, he was thrown off the force. No puppets could join the police, cementing their second-class status. And over the course of the investigation, Melissa-McCarthy and the PI learn to respect each other again and solve the case.
Yeah.
Basically.
I mean, in a nutshell, that was.
I know other things happen in the movie, obviously, but people need a baseline where what we discuss fits in to a larger narrative.
And I think the way that you described it was base is a good word for it, and line. No, you're right. So yeah, it's the basic old trope. You know, they were partners, they're not partners, but by the end of the movie they'll be partners again, and it all has to do with the shot he didn't take, or rather the shot he took, but caused an issue. And along the way, you know, like we said, like the puppet porno shop, there's the, ingenue femme fatale woman coming into like an old 40s Sam Spade private eye kind of office. There's the FBI guy who shows up who thinks that he's the real killer because he's at every crime scene. There's the old woman, there's the human woman, but there's the old flame that he used to be in love with because his brother was on the Happy Time show. His brother is one of the murdered puppets. And the only human on the show he was in love with, and she turns up again. There's all these, you know, there's a drug den, there's all these tropes of like both 80s action movies and film noir movies kind of tied together in a weird way. So again, like I said, the first thing is it's funny, and it's a perfectly, like, people criticizing it have clearly had no idea like what it was meant to be. I actually went in without having read a lot of the negative reviews. I just knew that it was tanking, but I didn't read any of the reviews. I'd only seen that one trailer, which thankfully only really showed one clip, which was the office sex scene.
I didn't see anything.
Which was actually far funnier in the film. It was less funny the way it was cut into the trailer. I actually feel it was funnier the way it was done in the movie, just with the timing and the edits and the set piece and everything. So it's a perfectly decent 2.5, 3-star film. It's not doing anything particularly interesting, but it's not doing anything particularly awful either. It just is what it is. But I think it's definitely one of those. I have many ideas and things I want to talk about where it totally missed the mark, but I would rather hear from you your overarching feel about the movie, and then we'll go from there.
Well, my feel, it does arch, and it does arch over.
Well, you are very arch.
I arch. I arch.
Or hunch. Are you arch or hunch?
It's like, if we're honest, I'm more of a hunch.
More of a hunch.
More of a hunch.
But not in a good way, not in a hunch that leads you to anything good.
No, like a hunch that leads me to ring bells in a tower.
Yeah. Or try and swallow verbs occasionally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what my kind of hunch would do.
Yeah.
So, okay, so all I kept thinking about, this to me was a really good, all I kept thinking about was Star Video.
Right.
All I kept thinking about.
So explain Star Video for
Okay, so when we were teenagers, teenagers, like 12, 13, 14,
yeah,
our local video store was called Star Video, and it was down the bottom of our hill, and me crossing. So this is like,
it's where we saw all movies that we now talk about, like The Burbs and Howard the Duck and all those.
But my point is, so what would happen is you would go down there, aged 14, 13, 14, maybe even younger. But you go down there, this is like way back in the day, And you'd have your friends over, in this case you,
Right.
and you'd get like a bottle of Coke and you'd get some cakes.
Right.
And you would
Straight from
And
the
you would-
Abbott's
and you would get a
Kitchen or
movie.
Bobby's apple
Right.
pie or something.
But you would get a movie,
Yeah.
maybe two, and that would be your evening.
Right.
And you would be totally gambling on the movie.
Uh-huh.
There would be no feeling of,
Right.
oh yeah, because it's like we didn't read film reviews in newspapers. We were 14.
Right.
We knew what we'd heard of things. Like
Yeah.
there were actors that we liked.
I think by that point I'd probably got Empire or something, but
Maybe. Okay, fair
but
enough.
not for old movies, not for the movies we were renting. Like,
Right, that's my point. So I guess what I'm saying is that most of the time we went in there, we were shooting in the dark,
Uh-huh.
and we get things with people that we liked or that we liked the look of.
well, and also because back then, unlike Blockbuster, which would have 500 copies of a new movie and maybe some back catalogue films if you were lucky, the majority of Star Video was back cat films.
Yeah.
They had like maybe a quarter wall that would be 1 or 2 copies of each new film, and we never really rented.
No, we couldn't afford
new
them because they were
films.
also more expensive. They were twice as much, and we were poor.
Right.
We would rather get 2 old films than one.
Yeah,
one
we'd rather
new
watch
one.
like yeah.
So we would take a lot of gambles. Now, my point is that if we'd seen this in Star Video,
right.
and we'd seen, like, I could imagine that if we were 14 or 15 now, we'd think Melissa-McCarthy was pretty funny. Like, we'd
I
have
did
seen.
think her.
No,
I
no,
said
no,
that it
no,
wasn't
but that's what I'm saying. I'm saying we'd have seen films like Spy and The Heat and whatnot and gone,
Right.
she's funny.
Right.
This is a movie about sweary puppets.
Right.
I'm 15.
Right.
Clearly, this is the movie for me.
Right.
And so when I was sitting there, even though there were flaws, it started off really funny. Like there were 3 or 4 bits at the beginning that were laugh out loud funny.
Yeah.
And I still think that putting the curtain back and the octopus milking the cow was just brilliant. Really, really funny.
But actually, what had us chuckling straight away was the character.
Yeah.
The Phil.
So this is my point.
character.
The reason I think that it was a good movie, and I definitely lean much more towards 3 stars, although I'm not pushing it much past that, right, is that I just enjoyed the ride. I enjoyed watching it.
Right.
And the story was engaging, even though I knew that I knew that Elizabeth Banks was, the big bad, and I knew she faked her own death because everybody fakes their own death in car bombs, which was sort of charming in its own way that you knew what the mystery was, you just along for the ride, and it did. It's just an old-fashioned, buddy film noir kind of comedy thing that we saw scores of when we were teenagers. Only with this added, sparkle, as it were,
Right.
of these weird puppet jokes
Yeah, I
all
mean,
the way through.
I think not the R-rated stuff, but like the vibe you're kind of talking about is sort of like a Short Circuit 2, where
Yeah.
there's like a bad guy, there's a good guy, and in the middle there's this robot, and somehow the robot is going to solve the crime, and everyone's going to be
That's
all
the
right.
kind of a feel. So you're taken along in the ride,
Yeah.
and unlike Short Circuit 2, I really cared about what
Hey,
happened.
listen, I cared about Johnny Five.
But you know what I mean? I properly connected with that character.
I properly
Phil
connected
Phillips.
with Johnny Five.
Fine.
Oh, another good example would be like something like a Howard the Duck.
Yeah, for you, yeah.
Yeah. No, for me, because I genuinely enjoy it.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So even though I think you're right broadly in that I think if it had been a bit more disciplined, but I think that what they did, or at least what it feels to me like what they did, is they had their story, and then these are the tropes, and this is the story we're going to tell.
Right.
And then while we're telling this story, we're just going to try and make ourselves laugh as we go.
Right.
And it seems like just from the outtakey bits that they had at the end, that some of it was improvised.
Right.
Because some of the things that the puppets said to each other, made them corpse, which suggests to me this is not a scripted scene. This is like them trying to make each other laugh by being gross or weird.
Okay.
So, as is mostly the case in my experience with people trying to make other people laugh by being gross and weird, it's either just doesn't land at all, or it's really funny. And even though the ratio was probably 1 in 4 jokes, I thought it was pretty funny. I liked, I really liked Melissa-McCarthy because I think that the only way that the whole movie works is having a believable human as a partner who is simultaneously really pissed off, but also really sad and unhappy. And it's a difficult thing to pull off in a, if the person you're playing opposite is a puppet,
Right.
And you have to be carrying around like rage and resentment, but also not exactly sadness, but a certain depressed acceptance of, I guess this is just how shit has to be.
Right.
And if I was going to cast anybody who had to be that character, it would be her. So because of who she is, I think she does most of the heavy lifting of what that character's supposed to be, even though, sadly, she's not really given much to do, because her, like, having to forgive him, the shooting thing, for me, the big problem is the shooting thing. Because the whole story begins with him not shooting a puppet. And of course well, at the end of the film he's going to have to shoot a puppet. But it doesn't really make sense. It's like the way they set the scene up when it finally happened, it was like what he could have missed. Like it's not like he was Johnny Utah in Point Blank and like fired up into the air or something.
Right.
I mean, I was expecting more of a story as to why he missed.
Right.
But there wasn't one. He just missed.
And he only barely missed.
And he only
the guy
barely
moved
missed.
his head.
And they had the thing about like killing the guy, which was quite effective. It wasn't like an ineffective scene. It's just the scene served the story, but it didn't serve what it needed to do for the story, which was establish this bond between them had been broken. It had to be brought together. Because it was like a bullshit thing.
Right.
So therefore there was never anything between them, and so she didn't have anything to do.
So this is what I mean. Is that it doesn't have... It's light, fluffy, and has some funny bits in it, right?
Right.
And there's the odd occasional adult joke where you're like, okay, great.
Well, what's this we talking about?
The movie.
Oh, okay. I think you're comparing it to another movie. I missed something.
The problem is that it doesn't commit to like any of it. And the problem with it being Melissa-McCarthy, and this might be down to just me personally, but recently I rewatched like Spy. I just saw that movie recently, Life of the Party that she's in or whatever. I do like Melissa-McCarthy, but the trouble is when she's in a film, it's a Melissa-McCarthy movie, right? Even in Spy, and she's surrounded by Jude Law and Jason Statham and everyone else. Rose Byrne, your favorite.
Actually, that's the only film that I don't dislike Rose Byrne.
Peter Serafinowicz. She's surrounded by all this like incredible talent, but it's still like her movie. Now I understand in Spy she's the focus of the film, but the trouble with that is, especially considering there's a sequence in here where the puppet is locked up and she and Maya-Rudolph, who's amazing in the film. Maya-Rudolph is by far the best human in the film, by far. It suddenly then becomes like the Melissa-McCarthy Maya-Rudolph show, and you're like, well, okay. And again, it might just be because I just saw Life of the Party where they literally star in the film together and have exactly the same kind of setup, but that was problematic to me, and it was problematic to me because I liked the Philip Phillipson character so much. Like, I couldn't get enough of him, and I think that this comes to my second point, which is it doesn't follow the tropes of either film noir or 80s cop buddy comedy film close enough. Like, it needs to pick one. Like, I was really, really, like, the opening sequence with him as a PI and there's a voiceover and da-da-da-da-da, almost right up until the first murder, I'm enjoying all of it. I'm loving his character. And there's a part of me on one hand, and I'm like, the way to have written this would have been, could we make this film entirely with puppets? So forget the whole, like, puppets are second-class citizen thing. We're just going to have a murder mystery film noir buddy comedy film, but it's all puppets. The reason why I say that is the metaphor, the whole second-class citizen metaphor, right? We're just there as entertainers. We're not there as, like, real people. Is meant to be like I don't know if it's meant to be, but it kind of comes across as a like fairly ham-fisted metaphor for minorities or African Americans or whatever. And that's never followed through, paid off.
Worse
like
than
it
that,
doesn't go anywhere.
Worse than that, it's like you're thinking, are you comparing the plight of like, minorities in America and what they had to go through with puppets?
Right.
Because there was a point in the movie where I thought, if I think about that too much,
that's problematic.
I'm going to hate this whole movie.
Right.
I'm going to have to remember.
Right.
This is what made me think about Star Video. Now that I think about it, actually, it's exactly that point. I thought I have to remember this is like those '80s comedies where they just had a silly idea and they remembered that. And they didn't mean anything by it. They just thought it was funny.
No, but okay. So there's another way to do it, right? So this is what I mean. There was too many ways to do it, and they didn't pick one. The other way to have done it would be like they do the Muppets, where the Muppets are real and humans are real, and they all kind of inhabit the same world. And instead, this was like a commentary on how people would really react to puppets in reality, rather than how they react in the Muppets, which is like, oh wow, everyone's favorite Muppet, whatever. Like everyone loves them and everyone's friends with them and everyone's, except like the one evil guy who's trying to get the Muppets and in the end ends up loving them as well, right? Which is the plot of almost every Muppet game. You could do that as a commentary. You could do this movie as a commentary on, especially with it being Brian Henson, being like, this is actually either what it would be like or actually what it is like. Like, you will see this wonderful, light, happy side of the thing and la-di-da, but it's work and it's stress and it's reality and it's tough and it's fights and it's whatever. You know what I mean? Because no creativity just is beautiful and wonderful, you know what I mean? Apart from maybe Mr. Rogers, but I imagine even behind the scenes he probably went, I don't like that line. But what I mean is, you could do it, the way they did it, with no context, it comes across as a ham-fisted metaphor for minority. Had it been more established, like had it...
But can I say something quickly? Because here's the thing, right? And I just realised it while you were pointing this out.
Yeah.
It's just losing. It doesn't need to be there. Because at no point... Because you're right, it doesn't...
That was the point I was saying to begin with.
Yeah,
right.
It doesn't follow through on it.
No.
All the stuff, like actually, the thing about, there was this big hit show 20 years ago, and all the puppet characters, and the human character, by the way, have gone off the rails, and they're in drug dens, or they're running a barbecue. That was a good joke about the barbecue and faith center, whatever. All that stuff, right, together. It doesn't, like, that's funny in itself. It's funny that he has to go trawling through these, like, it's like, because what's funny is even puppets get, like, dragged into this, like, weird underbelly, you know what I mean? And you just don't need to talk to, but
and I think
none of it gets paid off.
But I think
all
that's
the jokes
why
that don't work, and all the stuff about it is, like, doesn't quite land. It's all to do with that metaphor. They just ignored it.
But I think that's why they bring up the metaphor, I think. Maybe they brought it up. Or maybe they wrote it into the script. Because they're trying to do this thing where now the puppets only exist in sort of this seedy underbelly, right? So they're private eyes, or they're drug dealers, or they're gamblers, or they're porn merchants, or they're whatever, because that's where second-class citizenry live in this world, not in reality, but in this world. Instead of trying to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, or like trying to like go out and be good puppets, I guess, they're not. They're living within the kind of crime-riddled areas, and the one puppet who tried to join the police force and fails. But I think I think has made it all too complicated.
Yeah, I agree.
It would be so much easier if you go, there are puppets, there are humans. They do all the jobs humans do, and humans do all the jobs puppets do, and whatever, right? And it's just people, right?
Yeah, it doesn't.
In fact, it doesn't even have to have humans in it. It could just be a puppet film. But if you're gonna have humans in it, there shouldn't be some commentary about humans and puppets, unless it's specific to kind of something we all grew up with. Like, unless it's a commentary on the Muppets themselves, and like the cult of the Muppets that we all grew up with, unless it's a comment on that, which it isn't. It's sort of some half-assed, it comes across like some sort of half-assed metaphor for, minorities turning to crime, or, this is the only thing we've got in the puppet ghetto or whatever. That would be one thing, but but that's all it ends up being. There's no like you say, it doesn't hold any water. It doesn't further
It doesn't
the
even
plot.
pay off, but yeah, it doesn't pay off narratively.
Well, actually,
what's the point in bringing it up?
Nothing really pays off narratively, and that's the other second point. My other problem is that if you follow the example of like a knockabout 80s comedy, even if they are sort of saggy in the middle, which a lot of them are, they all end with a good climax, you know what I mean? Whether it's like Who's Harry Crumb or Fletch Lives or whatever it is, like they all know, well, we're all building up to this, like either it's a fight or it's a song and dance or it's an explosion or it's like a revealing of the villain or it's whatever. And this didn't have, like, this had the opportunity, because it's puppets.
I tell you what.
This had the opportunity. You could have done like something ridiculously big and fun and enjoyable and mad, and instead you didn't. And that's the other thing, that this whole puppets being second-class citizen thing, it hinders the movie, and I'll tell you why. In the Muppet world, in any of the Muppet movies, but especially the good ones, you've got like tons of Muppets. There's loads of different characters. There's lots of stuff going on. There's puns. There's, references. There's whatever. By narrowing it down to this thing whereby like there's only a few puppets and they only kind of show up here. Like the biggest puppet scene was in the gambling den. And what happened? There was little glimmers of like fun, weird characters, but then it's a fight scene, and then she's doing sugar, and now sugar is a drug thing, and that's not really explained, but she has a puppet liver, so wait, you can put puppet livers into humans, and that's fine, but then the joke about the puppets is that they're just foam inside, you can just tear them apart, like, that doesn't work, it works if you're trying to tell the story between her and him and where does she exist in the world.
And by the way, that's not difficult to have, like, instead of it, you could just have, like, when one of the puppets is ripped open by a dog, it's got, like, felt in it. Like, that would be gross and weird, but also sort of funny.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's not. It's just all white fluff, yeah.
So it doesn't really make, like, none of that makes any sense either. No. So, and then there was no climax. Like, they got to the airport.
I was just thinking about that.
He had Elizabeth Bank with the case.
Well, you know what
and
it was?
Then we had the scene set up, which we knew was going to happen anyway.
So you know what you were saying about it could decide whether it could be a buddy cop or a film noir. They decided to end it like a film noir. Like it's supposed to be like a big emotional scene, like at the airport where she's like staring. You know what I mean?
Right,
like it turns out
you need to film it that way.
Yeah, I agree, and also like have some payoff thing because it's like at the end he's supposed to reveal something that he knew, but then you know what I mean? Like that's what happens in The Big Sleep.
Right.
At the end, when he confronts them, there's one last thing, that he's gassed, like one big secret, but also one last thing he needs to know.
Right.
So it's like there's a big reveal to the audience, but also one final question that only that character can answer.
Right.
But instead, like they tried to do that, but it wasn't there.
Right.
And having Elizabeth Banks realised that, yeah, we knew that.
Right.
We knew it was her already. She's waiting at an airport. We knew. So you're right. There was just like
there was no payoff. So in the buddy cop mold, you don't need to have anything paid off. You just need, there's a bad guy, we're the good guys, let's go get him.
Right.
But like you say, in a film noir, you have to have written
Which is true. Like in Dragnet, all they have to do is stop him. They just race to the airport.
Yeah, Dragnet's just... And Dan Aykroyd's like, well, how do I end it?
The bad guy's flying off in a plane.
I'll have... we chase him in a car, ramp the music up, oh, wait a minute, he's got away in the plane, and then Dan Aykroyd gets to have his, I love big machinery in America moment, where he gets to be up in a plane and then pointing down, throw the music back up again, and then your coda to the end of the movie is like a we're friends but we're still joshing with each other, and then you end the film. Like the it's so pleasing, and we've seen it in so many movies because it works.
And also a lot of
this movie doesn't bother to have it.
Dragnet had that buddy comedy but also film noir-y kind of a thing too. It's possible to have those two things. In fact, if they just ripped off the plot of Dragnet, that would have been fine.
Right.
The After Movie Diner with John Cross will return right after this.
go. Hey, this is Jay Mayo from Hold the Mayo Podcast. Hold the Mayo is a podcast where I talk about music, movies, pop culture, and all of the things that are going on in my daily life. I'm not afraid to talk about the good things, the bad things, and everything in between. I'll call you out for being a dad boner. I'll rant and rave about ice cream teens and why I think they're all a bunch of prostitutes. And if you stick around long enough, I might even tell you about the time that a girl tried to finger bird into my mouth. That's right. You can follow me on social media at Hold the Mayo Pod, and you can download on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, and everywhere else that podcasts can be found. New episodes every Tuesday.
Thank you, Jay Mayo. Hello all, I'm here to convince you to listen to the Moturn Media Infomercial Podcast. What is that, I hear you cry? It's only one of the most inspirational, hilarious, intriguing, and wonderful podcasts on the internet. Moturn Media is the creative brainchild of Matt Farley, under which he has written thousands and thousands of songs under many band aliases, created stories and characters, made amazing films, put on live shows, and gathered a slew of local legends around him, all inspired by his message of just get out there and create, create, create. Start at the beginning and work your way through to get the full scope and genius of his utterly ridiculous yet amazingly encouraging and brilliant creativity. The Moturn Media Infomercial Podcast, available where all good podcasts are found.
You're listening to the sweet sounds of the After Movie Diner. Support us at patreon.com/After Movie Diner. Or I'll punch you in the teats. Rate and review us on iTunes, Earthling.
It feels that, and this felt this a bit to me with the later Muppet films as well, the Jason Segel one and then the one that came afterwards, is that if you watch the first 4 Muppet movies, the Muppet movie, Muppets Take Manhattan, Great Muppet Caper, and even Christmas Carol, the attention to detail, the filmmaking, the camera movements, the stunts, the wow moments, the lighting, everything about them, they are proper movies. They're not, oh, we're doing a Muppet movie so it can be a bit shoddy. They're like proper fucking movies. They're shot well, they're written well, the songs are catchy, the set pieces are great. There's always a moment in it where you're like, wait a minute, they have 17 Muppets riding a bike? Like, how is that even done without green screen? Like, that's fucking amazing. This one felt like, apart from his lower jaw lip, which I thought went really well with his voice, I felt like they couldn't be asked with, like, any of the puppets. None of their eyelids didn't move, their eyebrows didn't really move. It was really just their mouths moving. There was no attempt to kind of establish a look of the movie. Like, sometimes it was one thing, sometimes it was another. I mean, like, it was okay, but there was no attention to detail with puns particularly. Even in the pawn shop, where you think, all right, ladle on the like Muppet style gags, but do it with, you know, sex names or whatever. It was all just like, you know, chicks and their big asses, and the joke was, oh, it's a donkey, not a butt, whatever. There was no, like, it didn't have, you could have made an adult R-rated Muppet movie that still had a good script, that still had some whimsy to it, that still had, like, and this just, it lacked the soul of its other character.
I'm gonna have to push back a little bit, just a little bit. I know what you're saying, and you're not wrong about any of it. You're not. It should have. I do feel it was as simple as just ditching the metaphor. I wonder whether, if you make a film where there's, you know, where all of the puppets ended up like down on their luck and, you know, sleeping in drug dens or working in strip clubs or, you know, dealing drugs or gambling, whatever. If by doing that, by making that movie, you're not saying, what? Hang on, are they all? If they're all down on their luck, are they second-class citizens? And if all the second-class citizens are puppets, and all of the humans are like in the, you know, the proper jobs and have all the power, is that not the metaphor we're already making? In which case, do we lean into that or what? Like, is it one of those things where if we don't mention it, is that weird? You know what I mean? Which is easily solved. If you don't, okay, look, because I'm supposed to be pushing back here, but they just need to lose the whole second-class citizen metaphor thing and make the lieutenant a puppet, you know, or the FBI guy. If the FBI guy had been a puppet, that would have been amazing. It's like anything. It just, none of that stuff added to it. However,
I feel like the only puppet that I genuinely liked and was charmed by was the lead.
I agree. And I agree with you about, like, that there wasn't enough. Although, I have to go, I liked the crab and the...
Wait, but that was a cameo.
No, I get it. And I like the strongman thing. No, but you're saying no. I like the... that made me laugh there. But I'm just saying, in my experience in the movie, like, this is definitely one of those times where, you know, you sit down and you talk about it, the more you talk about it, the more you realise how much was wrong with that, and how easily it could have been better, and how the things that bothered you about it did actually have a name, and we're all connected. You know what I mean? Right. It could have just been, like, surgically plucked from the movie. It just made it better. But while I was sitting there watching it, it made me laugh out loud 6 or 7 times.
Yeah, I've said that.
No.
Caveat, that was my caveat.
No, I'm just talking about my experience. I'm not arguing against your opinion. I'm saying I accept everything you're saying. However, while watching it, maybe laugh 6 or 7 times. Melissa-McCarthy doesn't always work because it depends on how she's cast, I find. Like, St. Vincent was like, what's she even doing in this?
Well, that was the same for everyone in that. Like, what was Naomi Watts' Russian hooker thing? What was Bill Murray trying to do? Like, that whole movie was a mess.
Right.
Bring that up?
But I'm just saying...
That's awful.
No. But I'm saying, like, that's an example of how, even though she's quite good at it, right? In the movie, like, for what she's given to do. Of all of them, she's the only believable character in the whole thing. But it's just a waste. When you give her something to do, which is mostly... I mean, I could have done with her insulting more people, because I think that nobody insults people better than Melissa McCarthy.
Wait, but that was the other thing, is that a lot of what she did, a lot of what it was is like, oh, because we can say the word fuck, let's just have her say fuck you. And I'm like, that's not funny. Like, it's not... And the thing is, or maybe it's funny once, but it's not funny 17 times. It's like... It really lacked a script, and that wouldn't have been a problem if you could have coasted by on the charm of the characters, and if there was lots of, like, puppet stuff in there to distract you. But there wasn't. Like, really, the only main puppet character was the PI, Phil. And all the others that we came across they served a function, but they didn't have a character.
All I'm saying is, I agree with you, and everything you're saying is true, and it could easily have been much better. All I'm saying is, while I was sitting there watching it, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed her, I enjoyed him, I enjoyed the setup, I enjoyed the film noir tropes. There was enough funny bits in it. There's things that I saw in there that I will never unsee, you know, that will remain permanently burned in my brain, and that's not a bad thing given how many things it is I see. You know, in terms of movies. These days, especially with the diner, when we go and we watch a movie, and sometimes, like, it's just fun. But, like, the Meg was full of fucking holes as well. The Meg could easily have been loads better. Like, easily.
Right, but the Meg knew to distract us enough with
The Big Shark, I agree. I agree. I'm not saying it didn't know, you know, which side its bread was buttered, right? I'm just saying... I enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed the Meg. In other words, I found I don't dispute that it was a choice that I made when I was like, this metaphor is really clumsy and is going to bother me because it's so flippant.
Right.
You know, if I don't remember those movies we used to watch from Star Video, where it was just like, this is a goofy idea, let's just run with it.
Yeah.
And you watch a goofy movie and you'd enjoy it on a purely surface level.
Right.
And so that's how I decided to watch it. And so, as a result, I'm just saying, as a result, I was able to sit through the whole movie and on a surface level, be taken along with the story.
But so was I.
Enjoy. I know, nothing of what I'm saying is arguing with you. I'm just saying.
Yeah, don't get offensive. There's really
no,
I'm just agreeing with you.
I know, but that's what I'm saying.
But if we had started the podcast and both gone, oh yeah, I sat through it and quite enjoyed it, that's all we would have talked about.
I agree. Well, we could
so
have
I had
more...
to talk about something.
No. But that's what I'm saying. I agree with everything, every point you made about that movie. And it is, the more we talk about it, like, the more I realise how flawed it was and how easily it could have been much better.
You get rid of the metaphor.
Yeah.
You pick a genre. Is it a film noir or is it a buddy cop? You write a convincing climax to it.
Yeah.
And you actually put some energy and effort into the puppets. And I would say, sure, have some R-rated elements, but don't make it like plot elements. Don't make it like the elements. The pubic hair reveal was just fucking stupid. That was just a stupid way to tie in the plot.
It's weird.
I'm like, oh, that's because you can do it, so you've done it. And then you're going to, on top of that, you're going to then double down on what is a very piss-poor Basic Instinct ripoff to then be like, oh, and that's the twist that leads them to the bad guy. Like, that's just like,
I actually didn't mind that.
We're doing it because we can do it.
I didn't mind
just
that.
like,
I know what you're saying, but I quite like that the callback, like the reveal.
but what I'm
Was
saying
just
is,
one of the dumbest
there's
scenes in it.
there's a 48 Hours style Nick Nolte, Eddie Murphy movie, right? To be made,
Yeah.
right, with puppets and humans, right, that has a gritty
Yeah.
/ film noir parody feel throughout, but then knows when to climax, pardon the phrase, and get out of the.
No, I think you're right that actually, what they did is they liked the idea so much. A film noir in a world where puppets are psychosis and it's filthy and adult and off the wall. They liked the idea so much that they clearly wrote like the bones of the story and then just tried to make themselves laugh while they were doing it, which is why it's a mess,
Right.
and why it's all over the place, and why it's so specific. It's like, you know, that kind of group humour that sometimes emerges, which is sometimes can be a good thing, and sometimes it can be really sloppy. Like,
Right.
There's a lot less quality control, you know, because it's like, what's funny in the moment when we're here doing it? What's funny? And then they look back and go, Jesus, that doesn't, in the context of the film, that doesn't work.
Right.
At the time when we were in the room and we were making each other
No,
laugh.
but for example, the pea laughing joke,
Yeah.
right, is brilliant because it's completely weird. It's like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Right? But it needed, like, remember earlier on where, like, she comes across the drug-addled puppet who's kind of like a gonzo character,
Yeah.
Mr. Goober.
That was
or whatever
really
his name
funny.
was.
That was a really funny
And he was
scene.
like, do you want me to do like a Chinese whatever it was?
Yeah,
or like,
yeah.
And he's like, it's where I eat a handful of this.
Yeah.
And
It's only 50 cents.
all that stuff felt like it had been written, and like
Yeah.
there was this bones of a sketch, and the sketch is Melissa-McCarthy needs to get some information from him, but he will have increasingly ridiculous puppet sex things that he will do for 50 cents to get drugs, right?
Right.
And you could go like super long with that and still make it funny. And they came up with maybe two things that were kind of funny. But the same with the pea laughing thing. The way Maya-Rudolph said it, which is they'll remove his fluff, replace it with rice pilaf, at which point you're like, okay, that's weird. And then she goes, and then they fuck it. Right? You're like, okay, that's brilliant. But it needs to be given something called like the Beijing surprise or whatever. Like it shouldn't just be called pilafing. That's someone who doesn't know how to give a button. We've already established that there's these like grotty puppet sex things that are named ridiculous
Yeah.
things. Like,
You're right, pea laughing is not good.
whatever.
Yeah,
But
like-
what I'm saying is,
They call it rice time or something.
whatever.
Yeah.
Right. So there's
Rice to meet you. Anything would do.
right, but I'm not. Yeah, and I'm not like there's. I'm not saying remove the R-rated elements. By all means, have that in there. Have the raunchy adult Melissa-McCarthy, Will Ferrell style comedy in there. Absolutely fine, but don't make it the raison d'etre of the movie. Just pepper it throughout the film. Like have the sex act, which is an octopus milking a cow. That was funny, right? Similarly, with the fire station dog getting all randy with the fire station dog puppet getting like randy with the fireman who's tied up. Again, that went on way too long. Like you either have a few jokes about it and then get out, or you don't. But again, that was 2 ideas. Like, there was a situation where you could have filled that place with like 15 really on the money ideas. So there was like glimmers of it where you're like, that totally works, because within the setup of the film, within the established like puppet seedy underbelly, go hog wild. Like, of course, go hog wild, but do it in like a more inventive way. Like, what was the scene with all the gamblers? The only funny person in that was when she turned to the weird-looking puppet with the short hair on the side and was like, "Do women even go for you?" And he's like, "No, I live alone," or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, there was like a nice little thing. And it was like when they came along to the crab and the pig, and he was like just making obscene gestures to it, and she's like, "Does that ever work?" He's like, "It has." "No, it hasn't." "It has once." Like, there was some nice little bits,
Yeah.
but like, I feel like all of those scenes, someone needed to go, "Great, give it to someone, take it away, and 20 minutes just work on that thing, then bring it back to us, and that's what we'll film." Don't just go, "Oh yeah, it's funny that the crab says tits," and then move on to the next scene. Like, it needs to be more than that.
Yeah.
If we're taking it seriously. If we're not, if it's just a, kind of a loose knockabout B movie, we're not going to bother too much with the puppets. We're going to have a few set pieces where, oh, it's shocking because the puppets have sex or whatever. And then in between that, we're making some sort of weird R-rated Melissa-McCarthy movie. Then yeah, sure. Are you going to have laughs? Yes. Is it going to be a fun time? Yes. I wasn't uncomfortable at any point. I wasn't like pissed off at any point. But I did come out of it going, that was a real missed opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I do think this is one of those times where, while I was watching it, even though I was aware that there was and something in the back of my mind going, this could be fun, you know that.
Right.
I chose to ignore it.
Right.
But when we've come out and talked about it, everything you say is right. And I even though I'd like to, I
just
agree
feel
with
like,
you. I mean, I agree with you.
weirdly
What can you
enough,
do? It's one of these things where sometimes I feel like, you know, if I'd been the producer on a movie, then, you know, everything would be much better, right?
Right.
And it was like, how, surely this is obvious to anybody.
right.
And this is one of the times when I don't think that would be true for me, but it is true for you. Like, if you had been a producer on that movie, like on set, I think it would have been a better movie. You need to get involved at the script stage.
Yeah,
In
I
fact,
just
if
feel
you'd
like,
been one of the Hang brothers or whatever they were called, the Chinese lads that.
they don't do anything creative. They just give them gobs of cash.
Right, but on the other hand, at some point the script passes their desk. I'm saying, if you were one of them, you went, right, I like what you're doing here.
Right.
But here's what, you know, lose this, and with that, got to have a climax, do this better, and then hand the script back and go, and if you do that, then you get the money.
Right.
And they would have done it.
True.
So that's what I'm saying. That's where you needed to be. You needed to be behind a giant mahogany desk in Beijing.
Yeah, no, I don't have
Which is
any-
the first time I've ever thought that about you.
Yeah, no,
But in this case, it's absolutely true.
I don't need to be there. And I
Are
don't
you
have-
telling me?
I don't have
I'm
the
sorry.
money to be
I'm
there.
just to be clear. You're saying if you had the chance to be a big shot producer that behind a big mahogany desk in Beijing,
Yeah.
deciding whether to make filthy puppet movies,
Yeah.
starring Melissa-McCarthy,
Yeah.
that you wouldn't go, yeah, that sounds fine.
Yeah, no, I would do that. That would be fun.
And my point is very good. Clearly, I would not. Clearly, I would go, yeah, this looks fine to me. Have the money, and they'd have gone away and made it. But
Well, I tell you what it is, and this is where I think, this is where I come from on almost everything nowadays. Somewhere along the line, certain things that I like really care about, like genuinely care about, became the things that people were like, isn't it ironic, or isn't it funny, or isn't it dumb, or isn't it this, or isn't it that, right? So Evil Dead, for example, by the time the show came around, even the producers are like, well, all anyone cares about is the gore and the one-liners. And I'm sat there going, actually no, like that wasn't why I loved the movies. It's an element of why I like the movies, but like there was inventiveness and creativity, and it wasn't like,
it was anarchic.
You're right, and it was weird, and it was surreal, and it was inventive, and all those things. It then became like commonplace, marginalized. Everyone's done it, everyone's seen it, so let's just do more of that kind of thing. Same with the Muppets. Like, slowly but surely, the Muppets became ironic. Like, no one watches like Muppets Take Manhattan or Great Muppet Caper with taking them seriously. And I don't mean seriously because they're obviously comedies, but I mean seriously as films. People are just like, oh, it's the Muppet movies, isn't it knockabout and great? And I'm like, no, they're actually like really good films. The scripts are really great. The songs are really great. The way they're puppeteered is inventive and wonderful. They all have these incredible characters. They all have this, like, they're genuinely inventive and creative and life-affirming and awesome, while at the same time telling this, like, fun, knockabout 80s plot. But they're not just like, oh, yeah, look, it's a fun Muppets. Oh, you know, isn't it ironic that? You know, oh, well, what if we put them on an ABC show where everyone was like arch and knowing and meta about stuff? Like, no, that's misunderstanding what made them good. And it's the same. Like, I could go genre to genre. Like, I could go, well, like, almost all my passions. You know, it's like the fact that the best way to describe it is when people quote Monty Python, instead of me going, oh yay, I shrink. Like, I'm like, no, please don't quote Python, because there's just something about it that, like, you're doing it all wrong. Everything about it is wrong. Like, they do it and it's fantastic, right? But like, I feel like people watch Python and they go, oh, isn't it funny the parrot's dead? I'm like, no, that's not what's funny about that. It's funny the way Cleese's hair is slicked down and he's wearing a see-through Pacamac and he's talking to Palin as this spivvy guy, and, like, there's funny lines and funny things, and, like, the parrot is not the, do you know what I mean? Or like the oh, isn't it great they have, like, coconuts for horses? And I'm like, no, but that's not the, yeah, sure, okay, that's not things about Holy Grail that are amazing. And little things like that, I feel like it's all become just watered down.
I know what you're saying, but the truth of it is that in those particular cases that you're talking about, what you're talking about is...
No, but sorry, just to bring it quickly back to the Happy Time Murders. I feel like the Happy Time Murders is that kind of lazy, like, well, people think puppets are silly anyway, so let's just have them, like, be gross and silly and try and get, like, some sort of... There's no attempt to make it a film. There's no attempt to make it although a strong, cohesive
I agree with you. I think that the first point you're making, I think, is true, but I think it's more to do with I don't want to get, like, you know, too into stuff here, but anything that's great, right, is very, very difficult to replicate. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it.
Agreed.
Right? Because like what you're saying about, like, Cleese and Palin and the Dead Parrots, just for an example. No, let's take Evil Dead as an example. The problem with Evil Dead is the reason that it's so good is that they're young and they don't know what they're doing, but they're very sure of themselves and they're inventive and clever and funny and a little bit ruthless, right, with each other, with themselves. And so they managed to make something utterly unique that none of them can ever hope to make again, because it's a product not just of their circumstances, but also who they were at that particular time. So there's always this, like, intangible thing about why something works. And you look at any great movie or any great bit of music or novel, it's like there's something about it. Yes, you could break down in an English class or whatever why it's great, but actually it's something about the time it was made and the mood that the person was in when they wrote it, and it all came together in the right way, especially with movies. It's like, Jesus, the number of things that need to go right for a movie to work. You know, you can have great music, great actors, great direction. One thing's wrong and it's crap. So all those things you're talking about, quoting Python, the coconuts, it's like, that's the stuff that we can replicate. You know what I mean? That's the stuff that when I watch it and I go to somebody else and I say, this is why it's funny. This is the thing that if I show you this, you know, plopping the coconuts together or reciting lines from Python, that's my way of trying to share that experience with you without you sitting down with me and watching it. Like I'm just saying, or like all the nerd conventions, Doctor Who, and all that stuff that blew up for the last 20 years. All that is people who are very lonely and used these.
That's not true. But
No. I'm just saying. I don't mean lonely like that they're on their own. I mean that the things that they're watching, the things that they love, they connect with in this really deep, meaningful way. And when they meet at these conventions or whatever, they say the lines and they wear the costumes and they say stuff because it allows them to share that connection that previously they'd only have in a TV show with other people.
No, I get it. Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying,
I wasn't knocking that,
no,
by the way. I was talking
I know,
about...
I totally understand what you're saying. I really, really do. And the problem is that you get, all anybody wants is to make a buck in this world. So you go, well, look, we'll take the coconuts from Holy Grail and the gore from Evil Dead, and boom, we've got a movie, right? And I understand that with Happy Time Murders, you're right. The absence of discipline and the desire to take these elements that you've got, and you've got Melissa-McCarthy and Joel McHale and fucking, Jim Henson's kid, and who must have like puppet connections at the yin yang or whatever. Like, let's do something with this, right? It doesn't just have to be an extended Saturday Night Live sketch, right? But I think, especially with comedy, the problem is that it's very difficult to be certain about being funny. And I think that what happened was, with this movie specifically, is I think that they thought the idea of having filthy puppets in a film noir was funny enough to carry the whole movie.
Oh, I know, yeah.
And that if they just made each other laugh, they'd be all right. So
I get it.
So what I'm saying is, I don't think it was lazy so much as attempting to lay the groundwork for something great. Like in the best way that they felt like they could. I'm assuming they didn't have a huge budget. I'm assuming that the reason there was only like one or two puppets in every shot, why they weren't like lovingly crafted, why the climax is just in a room, a lot of interiors, quite small. Like, I don't think they had a lot of money. Even though they had people in it, they obviously didn't have a lot, because who's going to throw money at this project, right? So I think they tried to lay the groundwork and hoped that with this backbone of a film noir story, with this colour of the puppets being filthy, that would lay the groundwork for something really funny and really great. However, it's for me, the problem is it's what happens when improv comedians make a movie.
Right.
When the bits in it that were funny were just wildly original and funny and on the nose and just brilliant. And all the really funny bits, actually, as is often the case with improv, is not the initial thing, but the way people react to it.
Right.
How he reacted to the grossness and the weirdness, and how the people outside reacted to the sex scene was funnier than the thing that they were reacting to quite often.
Right.
Because that's easy improv.
He was amazing.
mining.
He was amazing.
He was great.
Him as the main puppet. He had a voice that was somewhere between who was your man who was the Sopranos died? James Gandolfini.
James Gandolfini, yeah.
He had a voice that was between James Gandolfini and Alan Arkin. He was really well, his face was really well sculpted, minus the fact that the eyes and whatever are not particularly well done, but it looked good. He was great at doing oh, Jesus Christ, all that kind of stuff was really good. And all the stuff I was getting a kick out of was the character, his character.
Yeah.
Sure, there's funny stuff and whatever.
No, but
for example, Frank Drebin in Police Squad, you've got to enjoy that character before surreal stuff happens to him. It can't just be a filter for surreal crap. There has to be some charm there and some class there that you're enjoying. And with this guy, there definitely was. And I think what I was hoping for was a cast of those characters.
Yeah,
and
I
what
agree.
instead I got. Not that Melissa McCarthy wasn't good, but she just I think it's because I've overwatched McCarthy lately, and I think maybe I was just
that's a possibility. But again, I think the improv thing, improv, if you, in a lot of it, if you have one strong character in the middle of it, then people can do lots of different stuff around it. They don't have any gravity or weight. It's like they'll jump from character to character, and whoever's in the middle of all that, is like reacting to stuff, and that's a lot of where the comedy comes from. Like people do something outrageous, and he gets a laugh because it's outrageous, but then the real the stuff that lands is how people react to that.
Right.
And like that's what's going on in the movie, and it's very tough. That's why, for me, it sags so badly in the middle.
Right.
Because it's like, well, there's not enough stuff going on. There's nothing holding it up. It's just a long improv sketch, really. So that's why I think it works when it works. It's because it's like a good improv sketch. If you went to any improv live in the city, you'd come out of it having watched it for an hour, and 10 minutes would have been funny.
Right.
But you had to sit through the 50,
right.
minutes of shit to get that.
But that comes back to what I was saying. Is
I agree.
No one wrote it.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think the reason why no one wrote it is twofold. I think, A, because there's this idea now in comedy that having a framework and improving is okay, and that successful people have done it, so it means we don't have to put too much down on paper. Well, actually, out of the Christopher Guest movies and the Will Ferrell movies, who I would still say to this day are the best exponents of that, outside of Larry David on TV, but like in movie format, Christopher Guest and his crowd, and Will Ferrell and his initial crowd with the initial kind of Anchorman, right up until the other guys, really. They're probably the best at it, and even they do not hit it out of the park like every gag in every movie and everything. Like I recently rewatched The Mighty Wind, which I love, but like there's really only like 3 or 4 really solid ideas in it. But again, it's propped up by these like legitimately genius improv guys who have all got characters, and even if they're not saying funny lines, the characters themselves
I agree.
are enough that you kind of get pulled in.
The problem is that the improv, if that's what it was, it certainly feels that way, that improv for the people involved in it comes out of, these are filthy puppets.
Right.
If these puppets say filthy things to each other, that's funny.
That's enough.
That's the improv.
And also, all of the movies, whether it's, Will Ferrell's The Other Guys, or whether it's Christopher Guest's Spinal Tap or whatever, they all have a framework. They're all written. Now, they might then go away and film a whole bunch of other things, but there is something that when they're in the edit room, they can come back to.
Yeah.
And this just didn't feel like it had that. So that's why all the stuff you were saying, I totally agree with, but I think it came down to the fact that it wasn't written, and it wasn't written because they felt like they could just do it, and because they felt that would be enough. And also, deep within the psychology of that, it's because I don't think they believe, or anyone believes, the studio believes, an audience believes, or whatever, that people really give a shit about like the art or humor or style or class or whatever of puppetry anymore. They're like, people just watch it ironically anyway, so it doesn't matter, just have them, whatever. No one would have ever said that, but it lives deep in the kernel of the fact that no one bothered to sit down and actually fucking craft the script. And I don't know, that's what I get out of it. That's what I, it's that missed opportunity. It's that if people just took it, you have to take comedy seriously. I know that sounds ridiculous. You have to take, even my 5-minute sketches that I write at the beginning of the show, of course they're all stream of consciousness stuff. I sit in front of a blank screen and I kind of throw stuff down. But even with those, I sit there and I go, well, okay, what's actually happening here? Why is this happening? When I write an actual sketch, sometimes I'm just writing silly names and that's all I have the mental capacity for, and it's just whatever. Here's a news story, here's an intro, here's a string of ridiculousness. But like, when I'm writing a kind of a 3-minute thing that has a beginning, middle, and end, like the Sherlock Holmes sketch or the Star Trek sketch or even some of the Hammer horror sketches recently, like you sit down and you write it and then you rewrite it and then you read it to yourself, and then when you're performing it, you go, well, that line doesn't work, change that, and oh, wait a minute, I've used that adjective twice, so nip it here and change that. Like, And their sketches nobody gives a shit about.
No.
I just mean that you, and I'm not trying to hold myself up as some great fucking bastion, but like, I just
No,
think
what you're saying
that,
is if you could do it,
no, I'm no.
and you're not even being paid.
I just think, come on, guys, like.
Well, I have
something.
I have sympathy for their approach, and I think that my takeaway from it is going to be that I enjoyed it while I was watching it in the cinema. I think that they made a fundamental misstep with the idea that they were Santa Claus at this and it just didn't need it. And I think if they got rid of that, I think the whole thing would have been a lot easier. And I think if anything, that weighed on what they were doing it as well.
One last example.
Okay.
The way to if you're going to set up Henson alternative or whatever, I presume this isn't the only adult style, Will Ferrell style, Melissa-McCarthy style comedy he wants to make with puppets, right? In order to do that, in order to birth something like that, you need your Anchorman, you need your Holy Grail, you need your Waiting for Guffman or Spinal Tap. You need,
that's fair.
A first movie.
Yeah.
A good example recently would be Deadpool, and I'll tell you why. Deadpool comes along at the right time because it's like we know what a superhero movie is now. We've had 10 years of superhero movies, right? So as long as we make a superhero movie.
Yeah, we'll get the check.
We'll get the check. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, separate. Yeah.
Oh, separate. Yeah. Fine. Thank you. We have a machine and an engine in place at each studio now that can make a comic book movie, right? What we need is some people to come in and go, okay, what's funny about a comic book movie? What can we comment on comic book movie? We have this character that can do this, right? And because of the success of the first one, which is a very traditional comic book movie, but with some asides, some meta commentary, which is kind of the character, right? They were able to make Deadpool 2, which throws out any pretense of sort of really being about it. And just every single line is like a killer parody, surreal, weird, flight of fancy thing. It's like which is either both grating or genius, depending on sort of which side of the thing you fall. But in order to do that movie, which is sort of far more inventive than the first movie, and certainly more surreal, more adult, more whatever, all the other stuff, you had to have had the first movie, which is propped up by a genre now everyone knows, and strong writing and all the other stuff. This had the opportunity to be that. Make it 90 minutes.
Yeah, no, I see your point. That's fair. Thank you very much. Thank you. No, I take
Make
your
it
point.
90 minutes, write the fuck out of it, shoot the fuck out of it, keep it within one genre and one framework that people can understand. Stick a climax on the end of it with, even the Mechanic Resurrection on a budget of, 3 pita chips and a fucking ham sandwich could blow shit up and do whatever. It doesn't really take a lot to go into After Effects these days and add the odd whiz bang to something. Do that, and then you might be able to start a franchise or something like this, where in the next 3 or 4 movies you can go, well, I don't know, let's try this, let's try that, let's stick it in, let's do a Western, let's do a whatever.
Yeah, you're right. It needs to start off with a big what's his face? Spinal Tap, man. Everything he's done since then has been built off of Spinal Tap.
Right.
And Will Ferrell, everything he's done has been built off Anchorman. And with some idea of diminishing returns.
Right. Oh, no, totally.
But you're right. Without that initial hit, you've got nothing.
Right. And Deadpool 3 is never going to be as good as Deadpool 1 and 2, and Deadpool 4 is if they even do that. I think they wisely know probably not to do that. Engulf him in another, put him together with another team maybe. Maybe he crops up in an X-Men movie or whatever and have him comment on that. That works, but you know what I mean? It's difficult to, like in the Guardians of the Galaxy, you can't have a movie just about the raccoon. You have to have people around it.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right in that, in the sense that it was a missed opportunity to do just that what you're talking about. I agree with you. And it was easy to see too. But I do feel like it's one of those things that there's things that I've done. And I'm sure you've done the same, actually. Where at the time, it felt like, because everything we do that's even a bit creative, even though we're doing what you're saying, you go through it and you nip and you tuck and you polish, but you're still like a little bit flying by the seat.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's that feeling of like, well, I hope this goes somewhere good, and I'm not sure I'm going to know whether this is good or not for maybe 6 months,
right? Maybe
even a year.
Agree.
Before I can look back on it and go, was that good?
Yeah.
And I think that. The only way to guard against that, to be sure, is to have a really firm idea of what it is that you want, and to work fucking hard to get as close to that as possible. Whereas this felt to me maybe more like they just wanted to create a fun way of working. Like, if we're going to make lots of movies like this, then let's figure out a fun way to make them. We haven't got a lot of money, but we're going to build up, just like my dad had his workshop. We're going to build up like a group of puppeteers. We're going to like shoot in some places, and like these are the techniques we're going to use, and this is how we're going to tell our story. We're going to use like these kind of like
when his dad did something different, it was the Dark Crystal, which is truly inventive.
No.
When his dad did something different, it was
but I'm not saying
Labyrinth.
but wait, I'm not saying different. I'm saying like a way of working.
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah. So instead of doing what you're saying, which is let's try and like, because you're right. If they just really put their heart into it, they could have made something really good. But they decided, well, because clearly he's looked at the Sesame Workshop or whatever. And that's why I want like that environment, of like, I want it to be like a hub. You know how people talk sometimes? They go, I want it to be like a hub of creativity. Like when people say that to me, like a hub of creativity, we're all going to do what we feel and we'll make sure they laugh and be like a really great, nurturing environment. I think, well, this is going to be awful.
Yeah, it'll never work.
This is going to be directionless rubbish.
Right.
And like that's what lets this down, is everything that you're saying. And I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it.
But I can't imagine them making a second movie. I just don't see it. Maybe like a TV series or something.
No, they'll never get... It's bombed horribly.
Yeah.
It's bombed horribly.
Although the cinema was busier than... and also I wonder, like, it was made with Chinese money, right? So how do the jokes play in China is the question.
Well, the jizzing silly string everywhere probably will.
Right, and the cow and the octopus.
Right.
So I'm saying the cinema was busier than I was expecting, given this is its second week in the cinema now.
I think so. Second or third week.
And it was third in the box office last week, and it can't have cost more than a packet of beans to make. I mean, it looked pretty cheap to me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's made its money back. Thought we were going, it's been a huge box. Like, well, yeah, but for some movies, number 3 at the box office for 2 weeks running, and then make it a few mil in China because it's got jizzing scenes and
Wait, I wasn't assuming.
No. I'm just saying, you're right. Like easy to understand visual jokes.
That's
like,
what
it's
I
not
meant.
about,
I didn't mean like that they're all sat there going, no more puppet jizz. I'm not.
Well, then maybe they are.
Maybe they are.
Maybe they are.
I don't know because I've not been to China.
But who knows? I'm just saying.
I could ask my friend Stu.
It may be one of those weird things that is.
Stu's lived in China. I could text him right now and see if more puppet jizz is something they often scream.
You should just text him more puppet jizz question mark. There are things though, right? There are things that have been like critically mauled, but still started a franchise.
Right, and then there are things that you thought had gone away 10 years ago, like the girl with the dragon tattoo, and then suddenly there's the girl in the spider's web.
And that didn't look good.
Out of nowhere. Didn't even bother Americanizing the other 2 stories that they'd already done in... Where is it? Denmark? Where is it? Sweden?
Well, they probably bought the exclusive
Where
rights.
was it made? The first
Sweden,
Sweden?
Sweden, yeah. Well, my guess is they didn't... Whoever played What's-Her-Face, she's gone on and done other things, so she's got no
Rooney Mara?
Yeah, she's got no interest in going back. Finch has obviously got no interest in making them. I don't think Craig wants to do it anymore. So it's like...
Well, I don't know. Craig could have got another 3, plush cardigans out of the...
I never even watched it.
He
I hated
just
the book.
swanned around. It looked like he walked out of a Hawk's Head catalogue onto
I do understand why...
IKEA thing, and it was Miss Marple with tits. It was Anyway,
Sorry, we blathered a long time.
We have blathered a long
Been a lot
time.
of blather, for which I apologise.
no, because I think we got to something real deep in there
I
somewhere.
think we did, actually. I think we just
No, I think we genuinely did.
No one... You and I will be the only people that know that, because
Yeah.
no one's going to get to the end.
And nobody gives a shit.
Nobody gives a shit.
Because, whatever, puppets, who cares?
Yeah. I think we're right about what it could have been, and maybe it'll be what it wanted to be, and maybe it will start something. But I don't think it will.
No.
And I think that's a shame.
We need writers, we need editors, we need...
I've made that mistake. I've made the mistake of thinking that finding a fun process is the way to create good things, and it's not.
No.
It's not. You find the story you want to tell, and you find a way to tell it. And in doing that, you find out what. If it's a long-term project, you find out while you're doing it what works and what doesn't. You know, that's how John did it. Like John discovered how to write, not by sitting around and thinking, what should my process be?
Right.
He just wrote every available opportunity, and the more he did it, the more he realized, well, that works. I write well when I'm doing it like that,
Right.
and at this time of the day, and I write badly when I try and write here. Like he figured out when I come home from work and I try and write, it's terrible.
Right.
I'm worn out, and it's not just that I'm worn out and I'm not enjoying it. Like the writing's no good. When I wake up a bit early or I write in the morning on the way to work, it's really good and I'm really enjoying it, and the quality of the writing is better. That's how he figured it out.
Right.
You know, you don't.
Well, sometimes
It's
for
not process
example,
first. You just try and make the idea happen.
sometimes the podcast is late, not because I haven't edited our conversation, but because
That's
I'm,
right. He edits the conversation
because I'm not,
There's bits that are left out
Yeah.
of this.
and I've stitched them all together to make a special album.
It's like 2 hours of you and me going wibble. No, it's 2 hours of me going, no, hang on.
Yeah.
And you go, brr.
And me going, stop being defensive. There's
Yeah.
really no need to be defensive.
And you go, no, hang on.
And you being like, no, I think what you're saying is, and I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying.
I think what you're saying is that I'm great.
But no, sometimes I'm late with the show because I'm not in that place yet where I can sit and write.
No, I totally understand. I like that Alf ate in this diner, by the way. We don't talk about that enough.
Alf
Alf came to this diner, Telly Savalas.
What I don't
Sylvester
understand,
Stallone.
so people need to know, we're in the Cozy Soup and Burger, and up on the wall there is a signed picture of Alf. Not the actor who played Alf, not the actor who voiced Alf,
Just Alf.
but Alf.
Alf. Signed, Alf.
Signed Alf. Who is that? Did the creator of the show come here and be like, "Oh, I just signed that thing"?
Maybe,
out?
because-
was it the
I had an autograph.
the dwarf guy?
I
who
had an
was in-
autographed photo of Roland Rat. Me and John had autographed photos of Roland Rat, and it was signed Roland Rat.
Yeah.
And that was because Dad knew the creator or met the creator or something.
So that'll be for next time, listeners.
But like, if
next time we delve into the
but-
John and Jim new Roland Rat.
No, we didn't. But if my dad had I don't know who created Roland Rat, but I'm going to go ahead and guess it was a balding middle-aged bloke named, Jeff, whatever, right?
Yeah, Jeff
And if Dad had brought back like a picture of a balding middle-aged bloke named Jeff with two Jims side Jeff, I'd have been weirded out spectacularly by
Right.
that in ways from which I may never have recovered. But the fact that I had a Roland Rat photo was a source of immense pride to me.
But is
for
it the
many
guy
years.
who voiced Alf, the guy who was in the puppet costume, or the guy who created Alf?
Maybe conceivably, here's my guess. Conceivably, some of them ate here, but some of them filmed here. So I'm guessing they filmed.
They never filmed Alf here.
They must have filmed.
No, Alf was all California.
Not like a New York special
No.
where they got desperate towards the end.
No. Also, the Emilio Estevez one, I think they're hanging on a bit long there. That is old.
Yeah, but look at Arnie.
Yeah, but Emilio's is considerably more faded.
That's true. But Arnie's and Sylvester's. I mean, Arnie. That's the whole
Also,
picture of Arnie.
like, a whole bunch of people came in, like Telly Savalas and whatever, in the 80s or the 70s.
Yeah.
And they went, great, let's stick it up. Then no one came in for, like, ever.
No one's been in here since Alf.
And then a basketball guy came in.
Yeah.
That's new, that one on the end there.
Well, why aren't we up there? We should be up there.
We should be. We
Right.
should be. But would you sign a picture of us, or would you sign one of our creations?
What would one of our creations be?
Well, for example, would we have a picture, like a stock photo that we call like Jeff in Congress or something, and we sign it like Jeff in Congress.
So you're proposing that what this podcast really is one man named Jeff Congress talking to himself about movies in different voices.
Yeah. No,
That's the kind of meta framework that this podcast needs to take up.
He's the creator of us.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I like that.
Jeff
So he
in Congress.
voices us.
No, he doesn't voice us. We voice ourselves.
So what does he do?
He's like, he created the show.
So he's like executive producer.
He's the one who forces me to do his bidding.
I guess somebody has
He's the
to.
one who's like leaning over me being like, we need more sketches, boy. Come on, write more sketches. And then he's the guy who's like, lose the original songs. Nobody gives a shit.
See, I'm not privy to this. I just turn up and talk rubbish.
And we start.
And you're the one that has to cut. How much rubbish do you cut out of the show?
Not lately, hardly at all.
Right?
The real energy that drains me every week is listening back to it.
How long have we been going on for? What time is it?
I don't know. It's like 11.
Shit, then maybe we should give it a...
Shit, we talked for 2 hours.
Yeah, we need to stop.
All right.
Sorry. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. All right, let's go.
Cut it off, kid. You gotta cut it off. Sorry, Jeff.
I wonder if one day that you say that you care. If you say you love me madly, I gladly be there like a puppet on a string. Love is just like a merry-go-round with all the fun of the fair. One day I'm feeling down on the ground, then I'm up in the air. Are you leading me on? Tomorrow will you be gone? I wonder if one day that you say that you care. If you say you love me madly, I gladly be there like a puppet on a string. I may win on the roundabout, then I'll lose on the swings. In or out, there is never a doubt just who's pulling the strings. I'm all tied up in you, but where's it leading me to? I wonder if one day that you say that you care. If you say you love me madly, I gladly be there like a puppet on a string. I wonder if one day that you say that you care. If you say you love me madly, I gladly be there like a puppet on a string. Like a puppet on a string.